What is up, everybody? I hope you're all doing well. Today we are checking out the REVV Amplification Generator 120 Mark III. Now I've demoed the Generator 120 Mark II. This is the enhanced Mark III. One of the most notable enhancements is the fact that it has the 2 notes torpedo embedded outs, and that's a stereo output reactive load on this amplifier. So you've got a 120 watt all analog tube 4-channel amplifier that can be ran into a cabinet and it sounds killer, or you can run the 2 notes embedded stereo left and right out straight into your console, your interface, and your DAW, or run them both together if you would like to. But that's a very notable enhancement to this amp. If you're not familiar with 2 notes, maybe check out a video I did demoing the 2 notes Captor X. What is in this amp is very similar to that. I'm not going to deep dive into that in this demo, but I'll briefly touch on it, and we'll go through the cabinets that come embedded in the amplifier. But that's a very notable enhancement to this amp. Dan Trudeau, the amp builder, he listens to a lot of input, and he's applied a lot of that to this amplifier. So we'll get right into it. It's a 4-channel amplifier. All of the channels are completely independent of each other in that they have their own separate gain, EQ, and level per channel. The first channel is your clean channel. That's the blue channel. So you're going to get, bass, mid, and treb, and a level. Now that channel's set up to be super clean. We'll get into how that sounds in the demo. Enhancement-wise, you can turn on a bright switch and also a wide switch on that channel. We'll check that out in the demo. The green channel, or I should say second channel, green channel, that's more the crunch channel. Now that one has been enhanced quite a bit. Dan has added some drive modes to it. We'll get into how that sounds, but you've got 2 separate drive modes. They're not aggression modes, they're actual kind of drive modes, almost like adding an overdrive to the front of the channel. It has its own, as I mentioned, tone stack, gain, and level, and you can also apply a bright switch to that channel. Channel 3, or the purple channel, is a channel that REVV's really known for. It's a very tight, aggressive sounding channel. Now within this channel you have the same aggression modes that you had on the Mark II, but you have some enhancements via 3 switches. There's a fat switch, there's a cut switch, and a bright switch that can be applied to how this channel sounds. Those we'll get into it in the demo, and you guys can check it out for sure. Channel 4, which is the red channel, that's the most aggressive channel, but that channel's been enhanced to have a little bit more saturation and a slightly more controlled feel. It's really kind of silky. I really love it for solos. Now within that channel you have the same aggression modes, the blue and red, like you would have had on the Mark II, but you can also apply that fat, cut, and bright switch to that channel. Now all of these switches I'm showing you can be programmed, so you can have them automatically come on and off on the amplifier. It sounds, all that stuff works really well. All of this is foot switchable and programmable also from the foot switch, but I'm going to do everything from the front of the amp for this demo. You have 2 master volumes, so you can have one set to a certain level, and then if you want to boost the whole amplifier foot switchably, you can do that via the second master. And of course you have your presence and depth controls. Those are self-explanatory. We'll get into how they sound in the demo. All the way over here is your 6-position cab switch. That's going to allow you to choose between 6 stock cabinets that come with the amplifier. So if you're one of those guys that doesn't want to turn on a computer or mess with any of that, but you want to be able to plug right in and go with like your interface or your DAW, you're good to go. Now of course you can put your own cabinets in this amp. You can do third-party IRs. The sky's the limit. And as I mentioned, we're not going to deep dive into that, but I'll let you hear all of those cabinets in the demo. And I will say you're going to hear the amp mic'd up as well as those direct outs, which is really important. So on the back of the amp, you've got your left and right stereo outputs, XLR outputs for the two notes embedded hardware and software. You have a USB output to access the two notes editing software. You've got a reverb level, and you've also got a gate control. Ooh, I should have pointed that out. On the front of the amplifier, you can access the onboard reverb that you would hear through the speaker cabinet. This is the level for that. It's a really great sounding spring reverb. You'll hear it in the demo. And then there's also a gate. I did briefly touch on that in the demo. It works really, really well. It's extremely responsive. So anybody from, gent all the way down to like a blues player that wants to handle some single notes, or I should say single coil hum, you've got that handled with the gate. You can go from 120 down to 10 watts with this amplifier. You also have an internal load or speaker switch. So basically, if you're not going to run it through a cabinet and you just want to run the torpedo outputs, you can put that switch in and it'll allow you to access the internal reactive load. And then if you have it out, then you drive your speakers. Now, what's great is if you have this out and you forget to plug a speaker in, the amp will automatically go back to that reactive load so you don't damage the transformer. So that's a really kind of bulletproof design there. You have an effects loop send and return. I'm not going to get into that in this demo, but I can definitely vouch and say that it works and sounds great. Here's your speaker out. You've got 2 4s, 2 8s, and a 16. Now this amp is fully MIDI programmable, so that's what you've got there. And you also have a cab lighting output, so you could see that the front badge on the amplifier was changing colors with the channels. You can also make it so it changes the colors on your cabinet if you have a matching rev cabinet. So that's kind of a cool feature. Over here, you've got your bias set points, which is really cool. So right now it's got a set of 6L6s in it. You can use other power tubes, and you can use these bias ports to adjust the bias for different tubes. I think it sounds really great with 6L6s. So without further yammering on, let's check this baby out. Okay, let's get into some mic'd up sounds, and then we'll move to the embedded sounds as well. I'm going to start on the clean channel. The clean channel has 2 switches available, a bright switch and a wide switch. We'll get to that. Here's just the clean channel without any of that stuff turned on. Sounds really sweet, but we can add some top end without even changing where the treble is set, which is at noon, by adding the bright switch. And once again, without touching any controls, we can add the wide switch, which will add upper end and lower end, and it'll actually give it a bit of a pushed tone. It's really not going to break up. You can definitely overdrive your speaker at some point, but it's really designed to just be very efficient and sweet. Let me turn on the reverb really quick. I'll just let you guys hear it. It's kind of a spring reverb. Got it about halfway up. Pretty sweet sounding. Anyways, I just wanted you guys to hear that really quick. It's a nice sounding reverb. Let's go to channel 2. Now channel 2 is going to be a bit softer in nature, not quite as aggressive as the other channels. It does have drive modes in it. We'll just start with all that stuff off, just like we did the clean channel, and go from there. So here's the first setting. Now without changing anything, I'm going to go to the blue drive mode. Now we can go to the red mode. So this channel is definitely more vintage in nature. Can turn the gain down. Let me just shut that drive setting off real quick. Now, if we want to just add some top end and maybe roll some low end up, we can also apply the bright switch, not the wide switch to this channel, but the bright switch, and it'll give us a different top end. And shut that back off. Do a different top end with the treble. You know, I personally liked it with the bright switch on, but with the treble down a bit. We can roll mids out, make it really soft in the mids. I kind of liked having a little bit of bark there. It's very kind of touch sensitive, and like I said, it's not as aggressive and tight. It's a little more of that vintage kind of soft, softer feel. You can go ahead and crank the gain. So super dialable channel. I really liked the bright switch on in that blue mode, gain about right there. Okay, let's move to channel 3. We were on the green channel, the clean channel was the blue channel. We're going to move to the purple channel. That channel is going to be much tighter. It's great as a rhythm channel. So once again, this one has aggression modes as opposed to drive modes. We'll start with the aggression modes off. Now without changing anything, I'm just going to add some more low end via the fat switch. Because this channel is really tight, and that's what it's supposed to be, but if you want it to be a little bit more, you know, slightly looser or maybe a little more pillowy in the low end, you can use that fat switch. And we can do the cut switch. That's going to add more mids, more of a focused mid. So we're getting major tonal differences without really touching any controls. There's a bright switch for that channel. Now that bright switch is for 3 and 4. So I haven't touched any aggression mode. I haven't touched any of the controls as far as the bass, mid, and treb. Let's just go without even changing gain. We'll go to the first aggression mode, which is blue. Go to the red mode. So you can hear even in those modes, it's not just adding gain, it's changing the shelving overall. So more gain, top end and low end. More gain, still a little more low end. And of course we can dime the gain. We can make that sound more focused by hitting that cut switch. Or we can go bigger by adding the fat switch. We can definitely add the bright switch for more top end. So you can hear how you can almost keep this amp set at noon, really, with the controls, and just get it dialed in just using those switches. I like the blue mode, and then I can, dial accordingly. Okay, let's move on to the red channel. Now the red channel is going to be less tight. It's going to feel a little bit more vintage, but it's got a lot of gain on tap. So let's check that out. Same thing, I'll start with no switches on, no aggression mode. Now, I personally like this channel for soloing. Because it just feels great. Even just set that way, if I just turn on that cut switch, gives me a little more of that almost vintage style mid. It's really fluid feeling. Let me shut that back off and we'll go through the aggressions. First aggression mode, same concept. A little more gain, different shelving. More low end and top end. Here's the highest aggression mode. A little more low end, definitely more gain. And once again, we can tighten that up by hitting that cut switch. Or if you really do just want the huge low end, hit the fat switch. You could add more top into that by just using the bright switch with the fat switch. Now, with the amp, with the gain up, the amp does make a little bit, it's actually not a lot, it's no more than what I've heard from a lot of high gain amps. That amount of noise. Now, this amp does come with a built-in gate that's really, really works well. I'll just turn it on. I've already got it dialed. Let's see, yeah, it's this one. So now the noise is basically gone. I don't have the gate set to get rid of like guitar hum, but as far as just kind of quieting that down, if need be, it works great, and it doesn't chop into anything. Works really well. Now, I'll show you just really quick. You've got way over here, presence and depth. I'll just roll those really quick. Let's roll the depth off. Now this really depends on your cab and what setup you're using. I'll put it back to noon. I don't feel like I need any more than that, at least with the cab I'm running. Here's the depth all the way up. That's pretty huge, just depends on your cab. There's definitely a lot of range there. Here's the presence off. Here's the presence at noon. I like it about right there with this setup. There's the presence all the way up. So it can get pretty bitey. And once again, it just depends on what you're doing. And I like the presence control too to balance with treble. Once again, I'm always trying to tweak top end. It's like, well, if I want a little bit of different top end, I've got a bright switch, I've got a treble control, and I've got a presence control that I can use in unison to manipulate that, that top end. Okay, so let's switch over to the stereo embedded out, and I'll run through the channels using that so you can get an idea of how that sounds, because it really does sound great. Okay, so now I'm all set up to run the stereo embedded out. Now I'm not going to do a total deep dive into this as far as the software and what have you, because it's actually very similar to the Torpedo Captor X, and I've actually done a demo of that that's in depth, so that'll give you a really good idea of what the embedded out is actually capable of. And at some point on the Rev channel, we'll be doing some deeper dives into that. But I just wanted to let you guys hear it. Maybe we'll jump through some of the cabinets that come stock with the 120, or I should say the Mark III series amps. So here's the clean channel. Now the cabinet you're hearing is a 4x12. It's the Rev 4x12. It's got like a Royer and a 57 mic combo on it. And the amp still responds really well and feels really sweet. Now, one thing I can do really quick, that's the position 1 cabinet. If I move that all the way to position 6, it's the same exact cabinet, but now it's got the Torpedo's reverb. Kind of a longer plate reverb. We can go back to the original 4x12, the first one, just basically the same thing, no reverb. Now the next cabinet is same cabinet, but the 57 microphone has been placed off axis. So it's a little bit warmer. The next cab is a 2x12 cabinet. It's going to be brighter, not quite so big sounding. And then there's also a 1x12 cab. And like I said, we'll talk about all the mics as we go now. Something that actually is really fun is the twin tracker, which is position 4 in the stock settings. Basically gives you that 2 guitar players playing at the same time kind of doubled effect. And that sounds really cool once you get into the other channels. And speaking of that, let's just go to channel 2. I'll go back to the regular 4x12 cabinet. Now we can, I can add the bright switch to that maybe, and oops, turn the treble down. A little more treble, less bass. That sounds pretty cool. Now that's the blue aggression mode. If we go back to that, the twin tracker effect. really sounds cool for crunch stuff. Let's go back to the straight 4x12. But you can hear it still sounds really natural. It still feels really natural. We'll go to channel 3, or I should say the purple channel. Go to second aggression mode. You can add some treb. Then I'll go to the fourth channel. Add some treble to that one. Here we'll go to the blue aggression mode. And that could sound cool with that reverb setting. You do the cut on that one. Now, keep in mind, you can check out, I've done 2 performances with this amp, basically jams with this amp running direct, and it sounded great. And of course, you've just heard how this amp sounds in more of a performance context on the mic. So that is the REVV Generator 120 Mark III. If you've got any further questions, definitely go to the website and check it out. And I highly recommend that you subscribe to the REVV channel. I do content for them usually once a week. I'm hoping to start joining some of their live streams as soon as I get my rig set up for that. So if you're really interested in REVV products, I highly recommend that you subscribe to that channel. As always, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you guys next time.